Good afternoon. We'll be getting started more momentarily. We're just waiting for everyone to join the meeting. All right, Felicity, I think we're ready to get started.
All right, thank you, Allison. Good afternoon and welcome to the first of our monthly office hours series. Each month, we will review a domain related to policy development and implementation, provide you with a tip sheet for putting policies into action, and provide a forum for questions and answers, as well as just-in-time technical assistance. Before we get started, I wanted to briefly review our platform. All of you are currently muted and in listen-only mode. We will save Q&A for the end of the session. If you have a question, please use either the Q&A or chat icon at the bottom of your screen, and feel free to enter your questions throughout the session, and they will be answered at the end. The resources from today's session will be provided in chat. We want today's session to be interactive, so we welcome you to use the chat to share your experiences and be engaged in today's session. When using chat, please be sure to select the option to send to all panelists and attendees. Today's session is being recorded, and you will receive a link to the recording within 24 hours. We will disable recording at the conclusion of our presentation and before we invite participants to ask questions. If you encounter audio challenges, click Audio Settings on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen to adjust your settings. Or you can listen by telephone. The phone number was provided in your confirmation email. Again, good afternoon, and thank you for joining our monthly office hours. I'm Felicity Wood, a consultant with Health Quality Innovators, and my colleague, Allison Spangler, project manager, is joining me on this webinar. Betsy Archer, Leading Age Virginia Grants Administrator for this project, is also participating. This project is funded by the CDC through the Virginia Department of Health. Our goal is to provide model infection prevention and control policies for consistency among all licensed adult day centers in Virginia. This will in turn provide you with the tools and processes to best control and prevent infections, and to quickly navigate and respond to disease and infectious threats. It is also our goal to assist you in adopting and implementing these policies at your individual centers. We are accomplishing the goals of this grant project by working with a group comprised of leaders and stakeholders from adult day centers throughout the state of Virginia. These individuals are developing and editing the model policy templates for this project, which will be shared with you for use in your adult day centers. Some of the work group members are on this webinar today, and we thank them for their continued effort and great work on this project. To get us focused on today's office hours topic of policy analysis, we have a quick polling question to get an idea of whether or not you have ever completed a policy analysis at your center. Can you please make your selection now?
And we'll give everyone just a few more seconds to get their responses in. All right, Felicity, I'm going to end the poll.
All right, thank you. And I see that a few of the participants today selected the no option. So let's segue into what policy analysis is, and maybe we can turn those no's into yes. A policy analysis is the process of reviewing and comparing several policy documents that could potentially improve or enhance your adult day center's practices. This process allows you to identify possible policy options that can address a problem or meet regulatory standards. An analysis is important as it allows you to define and select which policies will be the most effective, efficient, and feasible. Without a proper analysis, a policy may be impractical, costly, or may not even address the practice it was selected to improve. In turn, this will make it difficult for staff to comply with and sustain the policy. Further, the procedural steps in the policy may not have a demonstrated effect on the problem or appropriately address the standard. The individuals involved in a policy analysis should include those people at your center who can interpret information about the policy, whose life or job may be impacted by the policy, and those who administer resources related to the policy. These individuals would include your staff, including a subject matter expert, visitors, volunteers, your participants, an advisory board representative or legal representative, and a quality improvement representative. Ask yourself if your center has the staff to implement a policy. Do you have the tools and resources to carry out the procedural steps of the policy? You conduct a policy analysis by identifying policy options found through research. This might include calling upon your peers or colleagues or trade associations you belong to in order to see if they have policies or resources they can share with you, or by checking the CDC website to see if they have policy options that exist and if you can get access to them. During your analysis, you also want to describe the policy options by paying attention to the impact of a policy, the cost of implementation, and the feasibility of using a policy. As mentioned previously, this tip sheet, as well as the tables and checklists on the following slides, have been made available for your use via a link in chat. On this slide and the next, we've provided a couple of tables and checklists for use in determining whether a policy is feasible for use at your individual center. The checklist shown here is available on the last 2 pages of the policy analysis tip sheet. Analyze your center's current policy using these tables and checklists. Do the same for the policy templates that have been developed and made available for your use by this grant project. Utilizing the criteria in this checklist, answer yes or no to each element to determine if the policy being analyzed provides the most benefits and the lowest risk to your center. Ask yourself which policy will be the most effective and efficient for use in your center. Ask yourself which policy is most feasible. Is your current policy the most effective policy available? Or do you need to make some edits or modifications to your policy? Or do one of the policy templates available to you through this project provide the most effective, efficient, and feasible to meet your center's needs? Here is an example of a table that will assist you in comparing multiple policies. This table enables you to assess each policy option against certain criteria for comparison purposes. Again, links to the tip sheet, the checklist, and the tables are available in chat, and they will also be included in the post-webinar email for your ongoing use and application. As mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, we've been working with a group comprised of leaders and stakeholders from adult day centers throughout the state of Virginia. This group of individuals have been developing and editing the model policy templates for this project. We have 3 finalized policy templates to share with you today. In subsequent office hours, we will share additional policy templates as they too become finalized. All policy templates developed through this project meet the standards and regulations as set forth by VDSS. All policy templates have been reviewed by a team of infection preventionists for content and accuracy, and have also been reviewed by VDSS to ensure that the templates do not conflict with or make it more difficult to comply with Virginia Adult Day Center regulations. Within each of the policy templates, you will see headings as well as an explanation of what that section heading is intended to accomplish. You will see highlighted words within each of these policies. Where the highlights occur, it is up to the center to decide if they wish to personalize the policy by inserting their center's name or keeping the text as it is written. At the end of the policy is a section heading called Guidelines, Standards, and Resources. The links and resources contained within these sections are the evidence-based protocols and practices that were followed when developing these policies. You are encouraged to utilize these resources routinely to further refine the policy template or for your educational purposes when you roll out your center's policy. Following the last page of each policy template is a separate page listing notes and recommendations. This section too is highlighted. The work group has set forth several considerations within this notes and recommendations section that a center may wish to include or not within their policy. These recommendations are best practices. The work group encourages each center to discuss these bulleted points with their team and to decide if they should be included in their individual center policy. Regardless of whether you have print or electronic copies of your infection prevention and control policies, the page containing notes and recommendations can be removed completely after you have discussed and determined whether you wish to implement one or more of the recommendations. On these next 3 slides, only a couple of pages of each policy template is available for your viewing. These templates have been condensed for the purposes of this webinar presentation only. If you look on the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see a title, Hand Hygiene, that is blue and underlined. There is a link embedded there that will take you to the full policy template. The same applies to the policies on the next 2 slides. If we look specifically at the finalized hand hygiene policy template and review this template in comparison to the hand hygiene policy your center already has in place, you'll want to ask yourself some questions about the content of this template and your current policy in order to compare and analyze. Ask yourself such questions as, does your center's policy indicate the staff members who are responsible for following the policy? This policy template outlines who specifically within the center is responsible for following the policy. Does your policy outline the indications for using soap and water versus using an alcohol-based hand sanitizer? Does your policy outline the specific steps for proper hand washing with soap and water? And do you provide a time in your policy for how long you should be washing your hands? You'll see this hand hygiene policy template provides additional guidance and indications for hand washing and the use of hand sanitizer. Do your staff know when one of these situations occur, the use of either method is acceptable? By comparing the policy template to the policy your center currently has in use, you are conducting a policy analysis. By asking questions about your current policy and comparing and contrasting the information contained within these provided policy templates, you're not only conducting a policy analysis, but you are also developing an educational program for your staff when you're ready to begin implementation of these templates. In the respiratory hygiene and cough etiquette policy, you will see the same section headings and the same highlighting. There is a guidelines, standards, and resources section as well, and you will see the section in this particular policy contains several more resources. We encourage you to check the links to these resources when you conduct your annual policy review to ensure they're still active links and to also use these resources to assist in education and implementation. Again, there's a separate page at the end of the policy template with notes and recommendations specific to this policy that are best practice. Ask if your center's policy outlines a process for containment and separation of those with signs and symptoms of respiratory illness or respiratory secretions. This policy template not only addresses those concerns related to the spread of COVID-19, but for any germ that can be transmitted, to include influenza, RSV, strep, and the common cold, for example. Ask if your center's policy outlines what source control is and the proper use of source control or masks as a barrier to block and reduce the spread of respiratory droplets. This is a great educational point to review with your staff. And this is also a great transition into the last policy template we have to share with you today, which is selection and use of personal protective equipment, or PPE. Proper use of PPE, especially masks, has always been a challenge, and it's no surprise because this is not an easy process. How many times have you noticed and corrected anyone not masking properly? This question is a great analysis point between the policy template and your center's policy on PPE. Does your center's policy provide the steps for proper donning and doffing, like the template offers, so that staff know the proper fit of a mask? The PPE policy template includes a section on key points of PPE usage, to include accessibility of PPE, disposing of PPE, and staff training and competencies. A robust policy should include these points as best practice and to further reinforce the importance of proper use for your center staff. This template also has the same section headers and highlights, as well as the guidelines, standards, and resources, and the notes and recommendations section. So where do you start with a policy analysis at your own center? You review your existing policies and prioritize what policies you already have that need to be reviewed and maybe updated, and what policies you don't have that need to be developed. Put together a team to tackle this project together. Research different policy options and make comparisons to determine the most effective, efficient, and feasible policy. And then participate in next month's office hours to learn the next steps in the policy process. Based upon the information shared with you today, we'd love your feedback through another polling question. What is the next step at your adult day center based upon the information shared today? Can you please make your selection now?
And we'll give everyone a few more seconds to get their responses in. And Felicity, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll.
All right, thank you, Allison. So great news. It sounds like and appears as though we have several participants who are excited and ready to get started on a policy analysis or have already completed one. So please let us know what additional information may be needed to assist you in conducting an analysis at your center. Please mark your calendar for June's office hours on Thursday, June 15th at 2 p.m. We will be discussing strategy and policy development. And we will also share additional policy templates that have been finalized since today's webinar. Allison, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay,